For this tutorial, we're going to be working with creating our very own functions and calling them and doing all sorts of fun stuff. When you work with code, you have things called code blocks, and they always have a start and an end. Start and end. If we look over here, we have an end trigger, but no real starts. That's not really a great example. And this is again all custom I made, so I didn't even have to follow the general pattern. But for example, if we wanted to have a globals block, globals, and then end globals. So there's the end right there, and then globals all over again. Function, end function, and so forth. A function is like a set of actions. So you can add it to your action down here by calling it, and it runs its own set of actions. So if we go something like function, end function, it needs a name. So right there's the name. Then it takes stuff, and it returns stuff. And if it doesn't take anything, you just put nothing. That's an actual keyword there. Notice how it's colored. And if it doesn't return anything, you put nothing. But if it does take stuff, you have to put a list of variables that you want to take. First the type, and then the variable name. And it's a list, so you need commas there. So like comma boolean b, comma string s, comma unit u. And if you want it to return something, it can't return an actual variable. It has to just return a type, because functions can only return values. Notice back here when we had like local, or no, let's not do that yet. When we had unit u and we did set u equal create unit player 0 hfoo 00270. This is a footmem, by the way. It's actually returning a value here. And if we even do the open parentheses there, it says returns unit. Not unit u, not unit hello, not any name, just plain old unit. And there we see the argument list, which is literally type name, type name. So that is how a function looks, except it has a function keyword in front of the name, like up there. And it has the takes keyword and the returns keyword. So anyways, this one returns nothing, so we don't have to worry about returning anything. But it does take stuff, and these are what are called local variables. They only exist within this function right here. They don't exist anywhere else. If I had another function like function name2 takes nothing, returns nothing, and function name2 cannot see anything in name. These variables only exist in this function. They don't exist anywhere else. These ones right here are called global variables. They exist everywhere. Everyone can see these. So if I did change this to u2, and I'd still have access to the variable u, because name would see this variable down here. As you see, these actions see this variable right here. Everything sees that variable there. So let's go ahead and change that back to u. Now name can no longer see this variable because local variables take precedence over global variables. The more local it is, the more precedence it has. So this is the u that's being seen, not this. So now we have two functions, and we can call them. So I can do like call name2, and that will call it. Name2 does not do anything. It doesn't have any other actions inside of it, but it can be called. And I can do call name. This one takes arguments. It takes an integer, so I could do like 5, a boolean, true, a string, so like hello, and a unit, and I can just pass in null for that. And null is the equivalence of 0 for units, or handles in general. And a unit is in fact a handle. It's also the equivalence of 0 for strings. So now up here I can access these values by using the variables right there that I declared. 5 down there is plugged into the I variable. True is plugged into B. hello is plugged into the string right there, and null is plugged into you. So I could go something like call print s, and it should print hello. And right there's hello. So it got plugged in correctly. They are always plugged in order, and you always have to plug in a value for every single variable. So if I got rid of this null there and just had 3 values passed in, it expects 4, and it's going to throw an error there. Right there. Not enough arguments passed the function. It wants 4, not 3. If I did something like 5 for the unit, cannot convert integer to unit, so it wants an actual unit to be plugged into this right there. You cannot have functions inside of other functions. Some people attempt to do it, like function name 3 takes nothing, returns nothing. You can't do that. That doesn't even really make sense, but anyways, you can't do that. So that's that. And in functions, when you want to declare a variable, you can't just go like integer I. Remember, well, I can't do that anyway because we already have an I. Integer I2, how about that? Remember, these are local variables, so you have to use the local keyword. And this is only exists within this function. And it only exists for each function call. So the function is called, they exist for that specific function call. If I call name 5 true b, the s right there, the string that existed for this function call does not exist for this one. It's instance specific, so every time you call it, you get a fresh new set of these variables there. They do not retain their values at all. So anyways, now I can have a local integer, and they work the same way as regular variables. I can initialize it to a value there, I can set it to like I up there. I can do whatever I want. And I can even call other functions from within this function. So let's say I wanted to call name 0 true boom null. That'll work too. Oh, I forgot to do that, didn't I? No. Null. Okay. And so right there. However, functions can only call other functions that are above them. So name cannot call name2. If I tried to call name2, it would throw an error. Undeclared function name2. It's because they look from the function upwards. Up. And name2 is below name. So name does not see it. It doesn't think it exists. That's that. In other languages, we have what are called prototypes, where we can go like function. Well, a better example would be looking at natives. Natives are in fact prototypes. So right there, native for group takes group which group, code callback, returns nothing. Notice that there's no code here, there's no end block, nothing. It just has the start of the block right there. That's a prototype. You cannot declare your own prototypes in vjass. It just doesn't support it. You can't go function name takes nothing, returns nothing, or function name 2 takes nothing, returns nothing, and expect that to do anything. As you see, previously declared, and it would throw a syntax error if it got past that anyways. StarCraft 2 does allow you to declare prototypes. And other languages also allow you to declare prototypes, so that's pretty nice. So then you can have all your prototypes listed up here, prototypes, and then all the functions can call each other, and you can do some really crazy weirdness. So this means that code ordering is important. You have to order your code so that stuff can call other stuff. And if you want something to use something else, you have to actually put it above. Now, for value returning, we can just plug in a type here, and then it will return a value. For example, integer. Now it wants to return a value, and to return a value, the return keyword is used. For example, I can return 5. Now if I did something like local integer x equal to, let's do it with this one, this is easier, return 3. is equal to name2. This x will now be 3. And I can call print I2S x, and we can see the 3 there. So there's 3. And it can also return variables. It does not return the actual variable, it returns the value that's in the variable. So I could say like return I there. Just kind of silly. I could make this take integer x and return x back. So name2 local integer y. Let's do that. I could give it a 2, and then when I print that out, it will display 2 because it just returns the value back. The return statement can be an expression, like a math expression, so I could do like x plus 5. Now we'll return 7. So there's 7. And it can return strings and so on. Whatever you want it to return, it can return code, handle, agent. Notice that the agent is not colorized. That's just the editor failing at colorizing again. So if I do return null and get rid of this code there, it'll still save. It's just not coloring because the editor sucks, I guess. Anyways, that's how you return values, and when you are expected to return a value, you have to return that value. If I got rid of that return statement, missing return, and you always have to have a return value at the very end of the function. So for example, return 5 right there. I can't have like a return null and call print hello, because it's still missing that return there. If I did that, then it would work, because I have a return again at the very end of the function. So what happens when you have multiple returns? Well, a return exits out of the function, so only the first return is actually done. So if I make this return integer again, I do like return 9 and return 14. The 9 is the one that's going to be returned. If I do call print I2S name2, let's make this take nothing. Now that's going to display 9, not 14. And sure enough, it doesn't display anything. Oh, I know why. Because I put in the timed code, didn't I? Actions. There we go. And there is the 9. So that is how you return values from functions, take values into functions, write functions in general. Again, a function is the function start block, the name of the function, what it takes, and there's the list of stuff it takes, and then what it returns, and the very specific type of value it returns. Again, nothing is when you don't want to take anything or return nothing or whatever, something like that. And also, for the record, if something returns nothing, for example, function name2 takes nothing, returns nothing, you can still use the return keyword. You can just make it return by itself, so it doesn't return anything there. And that'll still work. So I can then call name2, and it doesn't return anything, and that works. Oh. I am running into an error now for some reason. Call name2, return. Okay, that is just print hi. Oh, because I forgot the call keyword there. Okay, so that is literally just Cohator's vjass helper freaking out right there, because the return statement at the end of the line, I guess. But that is legal. So this code here would never be reached. If we tried something like return, I'm wondering if that'll work. Yep, that works. So if you want to return at the end of the line, I guess here's your workaround there. You can just do a double return. It's kind of pointless because it returns that anyways, but there you go. And if you want to exit out of a function early, for example, call print hello world and then return up there, this line will never be reached because it exits out of the function at this line. So we're calling it down there. We should expect to see hello world, but we're exiting before we can get there. And sure enough, no hello world. So there is your basic tutorial on functions.